support pediatric patients during hospitalization in oncology, dentistry, and orthopedics. So I'm very happy to join this initiative, and especially the child safety, child related ethics, and privacy issues. We are working in the hospital network in Italy, mainly in Italy, with one hospital in the Houston area. So it will be very interesting to share experiences, share critical issues and challenges that we are facing in the hospitals, and definitely interested to better inform families, young patients, and also the hospitals about the issues and how to manage them. So that's
Excellent.
it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
both,
you.
Mark and Valentino. And I see another participant has joined us. Carrie, do you feel comfortable sharing a quick intro and then we can get started?
Okay. Hi, I'm Carrie. I'm from the University of New Haven. I'm currently working with two other people at the university under a grant from the Office of Naval Research, studying BCI security and BCI applications such as EEG and EKG machines and the security of using them in medical settings, and how people can possibly gather data from our brains that we wouldn't, like any sort of information that we know, if it's possible, if they can trace that information back to us through us changing the brain waves and manipulating how a person's decision-making process works.
Excellent. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us. And let me just quickly check if anybody else has joined. Looks like Emmanuel has joined us as well. Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you for joining us from Greece, I suppose. Would you care to just do a quick intro and then we'll get started? And you might be on mute. And if you prefer to not speak, that's totally fine. This is going to be a, yeah, looks like Emmanuel left. And Joel, I see you. Want to do a real quick intro and then we're going to jump in. I really am targeting 11:10 to commence this session. Joel, are you able to unmute, do a quick intro, or shall we just move on?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm half in and half out. I also have another webinar.
Oh, okay. Let's just, yeah, no worries. But, this is definitely one of those, hands-on sessions. So you're welcome to participate or not, but I will definitely get back to you and get your input outside of this call as well. So
Okay, yeah.
You're welcome to just kind of stay up,
Yeah, I'll do my best and at least listen in and jump in where I can. So as far as an introduction, my name is Joel Charlotte. I helping Kavya through XRSI and a variety of fronts. This is one of them. Another one is helping with sort of grants and funding and figuring out how we can get a little bit more funding into the nonprofit. So as a day job, I work as the director of operations for another nonprofit called the Cyberbytes Foundation, where we focus on cybersecurity, but primarily, focus on cybersecurity, usually in the emerging technologies. So that's just a quick introduction.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. And now I'm going to switch my screen to what we are going to conduct. This is going to be a very hands-on session, so get ready. I'm really glad that you all are here because regardless, we were just going to do this, with 4 people, but I'm glad there is more. Will is going to share with you all a visitor mural link. We have created this mural with the objective of, let's establish a common understanding of the XRSI Privacy and Safety Framework version 1.1. You all have a diverse and really innovative and amazing set of skills. And we want to utilize that skill set to create executive summary, lay down a foundation for what we are going to call the XRSI Privacy Safety Framework version 1.1. So this working session, we're going to utilize this. You can either use your phone I mean, if you're using your phone, you can pinch in and pinch out. This is a very easy one too. I have a, like a mouse with a wheel. So that wheel allows me to zoom in, zoom out. As well as you can use, there is a specific, zoom in, zoom out control here. So we can do that as well. You can use the mouse to move this mural, zooming into one particular section right here. If you want to zoom out, that will get a good perspective right here. There are a couple of things that you will be doing today is you can potentially grab a sticky note. I prefer the sticky note of round sticky note. That allows me, I can delete that as well if I want it. So let's delete that. What we could do is let's begin with the very first, because we've organized this working session in various segments. So I will invite this group to contribute to each section, and I will state the objectives as we go. I'm going to minimize this part and keep the outline on the side. Close that. So, and you can also double click to grab a sticky. So you can change the color of the sticky if you like, whatever is your preferred color. Mine is purple, so I'm gonna keep that. And I'm going to first show you what is the step one. So the step one is we are asking you to write down your name and the role. And let me actually open this up to, let me see if it pops up. No, it doesn't, but here we go. Write down your name and the role that you will play in the development of this framework. Feel free to be granular and very, very specific. It is going to be something that informs us. So my name is Kavya Perlman, and I'm interested in playing a lead role for the subgroups that are related to security and cybersecurity. So let's say, for example, Carrie, you're a student, but you have brain-computer interfaces, security experience. So I would anticipate that you might want to mention that there, that you want to contribute to that specific. So be very, very specific. What you can do is you can go into this, and I'm just going to copy paste. You can make this sticky as big or as small as you like, but for the space that we have, I would say you write this here and then you kind of like, minimize it. So Will is going to set a timer of 5. Actually, let's make it 4 minutes, Will, because we kind of did the intro. So let's start the time.
Okay. Just started the time. You can also double click on the section if you want to create a sticky note.
And perhaps since we did the intro and seems like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people in here, perhaps we'll keep this section even smaller than 4 minutes. Mark, would you like to get a little bit more granular in this particular sticky to add your risk assessment? I would say, like, if you would like to assume a lead role in risk assessment, it's something that I've been counting on, hopefully, to get you to agree, but entirely up to your comfort.
Yeah, I'm happy to support it, but as far as assuming a lead role, I'm kind of wondering about the time commitment that's going to, what expectations that would entail.
Yeah,
So
so like
before I
3
get
to
into
4
that,
hours at least, and then definitely flexibility on availability is another something.
right, because I'd prefer to more contribute, as a commenter rather
Understood.
than, taking a lead role.
Understood. Perfect. So seems like we are almost, so let's take let's take one more minute, and well, whenever you're, I think people are still putting in their comments.
Okay, we have 1.5 minutes left.
Cool. All right, we have 1 minute left. I'm trying to look for how to full screen it. Never mind. And I also want to mention we have a chat function here, so I believe you all should be able to go chat if you need to, but you're welcome to. This is a small enough of a group. You can just jump in and start talking. Okay, 10 seconds. All right, so let's consider this section as sort of complete. Let's move over to the next section, which is the common goals. The question here that we are trying to address in common goals is, as a team, let's come to consensus in terms of what are we trying to accomplish here. Basically, you have a specific, expertise, and XRSI PSF has this much larger objective. But what is your understanding of what our common goals are? So I will take the example of Kerry, for example, has the brain-computer interface security background. And so I would anticipate that if I were to be Kerry, I would write as that we are trying to anticipate, outline, and then potentially propose risk mitigation to what could be the risks related to brain-computer interface security. Get as granular as you want, as elaborate as you want. So let us come to consensus in terms of what are we trying to accomplish here. For me, we are trying to help build a privacy and safety framework that will address multitude of challenges that are coming for us in the XR and spatial computing domain. And I would go on and include all the things that I would be able to be part of. So Will, we can start the timer. I hope everyone has a good understanding of the goal. Let's start the timer.
Just start it. We have 2 minutes left. We have 1 minute left. Looks like everyone's done, so we can move to maybe next section.
Well, is it possible to zoom in on this? Because there's like a lot of space being taken up for the working session, and so I can't read any of the what's being documented so far.
Yeah, if you're using a computer, you can just zoom. Like if you're using a Mac, you can just use your finger to pinch in and pinch out, and
Got
then
it.
if you're using if you're using a PC, you can use the while on your
Yep.
mouse.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know where's Kathy.
Oh, sorry, I'm right here. Sorry, I was on mute. So yeah, let's now move on to the next section. And this is the section that talks about common goals first. So common goals we covered. Let's cover the personal goals. What do you intend to get out of this? One of the personal goal for an organization could be, we would like to place our logo on this, or for an individual, I would like to be attributed. I would like to learn about a particular technology. What it will indicate that, okay, you're in the privacy area, but you want to learn more about the brain computer interfaces area. So this will inform us what other areas that you're interested in. And then that ways we can potentially hopefully when we create the subgroups, we will keep these goals in mind. That is your personal goals, because this exercise should also go towards it. So because we are a smaller group, let's set a timer of 3 minutes on this, or maybe even 2 minutes if you don't mind.
Okay, just start a timer. We have 1 minute left. Okay, time's up.
Okay, let's call this section as done. And let's move on to, we already did the personal goals, to the purpose. So what purpose means is we are driven to accomplish these goals as a team. A purpose of this group could be to address the urgent need of privacy and safety in the rapidly evolving XR domain. So as you write this purpose, think about we are curating this purpose statement for the executive summary. So I have a particular mindset for this that I would add, but these statements, so try to be more like narrative in this, and that those statements would go directly into our executive summary. So what is our purpose? For XRSI or for myself, is to address the urgent need for privacy and safety in the rapidly evolving domain. But this purpose could definitely differ for a research think tank. Your purpose could be to become the pioneer in the research community for the XR safety development and whatnot. So with that, let's start the timer. And I think let's call it just 2 minutes, Will, if that.
Just start it. We have 1 minute left.
And whoever has put responsible by design tech innovation, thank you. That is something that is really, really important and never been mentioned before. So yes, absolutely responsible development and design for the innovation. So really good input. And to enable and advance the industry. We good?
Yes, our time is up.
All right. Let's call this section done and move on to our next section. And this is a section where we should really think deeply about what are our core values. So let me share with you the instructions as we think about building this framework from both privacy and safety perspective. And these are the values that should go into the framework. What values are we going to build, keep as a foundation? So what values that should remain at the foundation to guide us towards the outcome and the benefits that socioeconomics of the world and other benefits too. So one of the purpose that I would anticipate we have, or sorry, the values is trust, transparency, accountability. And there could be other values. There could be inclusion. There could be accessibility. So in this particular section, what I encourage you to do to read other people's values as well. And if you see a missing value, you can add as many as you like sticky notes to this particular values section. and let's set the timer to 3 minutes for this.
We have 1 minute left.
And as somebody mentioned in the purpose, responsible innovation, what makes an innovation responsible? What are the values that go into it? Just for this section, I'm going to go over the input that we've gotten here. So clarity, multidisciplinary, anticipatory, trust, transparency, accountability, sustainability, accessibility and inclusion, do no harm, trust, protection, research informed, non-biased, platform agnostic, human first. I absolutely, in fact, I am going to say human centric, absolutely, research driven, peer reviewed, forward thinking, inclusive, excellent, and then respect for the right of individual, enable technology and benefits that may thereby derived while maintaining safety, security benefits, and agnostic. Are we missing something that is critical to this endeavor? And if not, let's call this section complete and move on to the next section, which is our needs and expectation. What that means is here. What does each member of the team need in order to meet their goals? So you had indicated some common goals and some individual goals. So let's keep those in mind. And then this could be a subgroup leads need, such as if you are, if you need a Zoom account, that's a logistical need. Access to Mural and other tools, that is another logistical need. Another individual need could be, we need event reminders for all the events that take place, or short recurring session, perhaps subgroups and other things that could be part of it. So let's begin a timer of, let's say, 2 minutes on this and outline our needs and expectations. I'm gonna do my expectation is that I expect this group and everybody else to participate. So my expectation is participation from each individual.
1 minute left.
We good with?
Yes.
Okay, so let's consider that as done as we move on to the next section. And we may revisit any of these sections that are lacking any input, but the next section is the rules and activities. So what are the guidelines that we should follow as a team? What should be the decision-making process look like? How will we make those collective decisions? So most of the rules, yes, come from the core team, in terms of like, you know, curating these aspects, but perhaps one of the rules could be each leader should be involved in the final curation of this particular aspect. So any participation, feedback, anything that will help shape this effort. So, and any other rules that you would like to enforce. One of the rules could be we, like some of the sessions that we notice that people are bringing in questions that are not very relevant. So do not bring any irrelevant questions to the working group. If you want to have side conversations, schedule a meeting, like those type of rules and activities. What other activities could we organize besides just the working group?
We're gonna start a timer for 2 minutes. One minute left. Time's up.
Okay. If you're still writing, that's okay. I'm going to consider it as done for now and move on to the next section, which is about our strengths and assets. So what strengths do you have as an individual? What strengths do we have as a team, or how can we best take advantage of them of this at this project? So one of my strengths is I am connected with all sorts of people. So I'm connected with EU Commission. So I would encourage people to be very, very specific. Sorry about this. So I would like to be very, very specific. So if you're connected to XYZ, name that XYZ. If you have other strengths that you want to bring to the table, such as you have a research lab that we can utilize, or you have students that you can bring in, other research groups that you can bring in, any strengths or assets. Maybe you have a Zoom account that has access to 500 folks, such as Richard has helped us out with that. Any other tools that we may be missing. So let's take the time. How about 2 minutes at best?
Okay, just start a timer.
Another thing I would really like you to do, as you are recommending your strengths and assets, could you please write your name? Because otherwise, since this is anonymous, we would miss out on who it is that is saying that. So when I write the strength here, or the assets and strength, I am absolutely mentioning my name, Kavya Perlman, at the end of it. So if you don't mind, please add your name at the end of your sticky note. So if we need to make an individual contact, we would be able to.
We have 1 minute left.
Some people could have technical editing experience. That is a heavily required experience that will go in towards the end of the.
Time's up.
Are you moving my stickies?
I just did, I'm sorry. Yes, I did. I am guilty. Okay, last section, which is the most important section for us to address anything that we are lacking. So let's see. The definition of the weakness and risks. What weaknesses do we have as a team? One of the weaknesses, it's not a weakness, but it's a risk, is that we are working across many time zones. So how shall we address them? What risks do they pose to the team, to XRSI project development? Let's visualize these weaknesses ahead of time so we can come up with a plan to address this during our project development.
I'm setting up a timer for 2 minutes. Time's up.
I'm done, I promise. Okay, so it seems to me that we are good. So let me consider that as done. So congratulations, we have just done our first session of, what we consider as like the overall foundation of this framework. Now, I would like to demonstrate to you how this process continues to build. So if you're thinking about leading any such effort and you get access to some of these things. So I'm going to go over to another mural that we previously used in our development of our framework, where we actually outlined personas, like what would this person's issues about privacy would be, what would this person, and really granularly thought about, okay, this person would like this issue. And then once we had those implemented, once we had those understood, there were risks that we had curated, and all of this then went into developing what we consider as assess inform. So if you're looking at those granular controls, the 125 of them, this is how this was developed and organized. And then we took these ideas and turned them into problem statements, solution statements. So there is going to be a time where we consider these as granular. We looked at various other aspects of, GDPR, CCPA, other frameworks and whatnot. So this is just, to give you an example of how we choose to and how we are intending to operate and get collective feedback on different things. I want to open it up to this group and hear from you as to, did you enjoy this type of a working session, or is this too hands-on for you? Should we change something about it? And what we're going to do now is we're going to curate all that is in here into a document that will outline all that we discussed. People will be provided a visitor link. So you should be able to come into this mural as a visitor, and at your ease at later stage be able to contribute, add to this. The only thing is we're going to close this out within this weekend. So at the end of Sunday, we are just going to close this mural and not allow access to anybody after that. So you have Saturday and Sunday to, if you come up with some idea, let's say 2 o'clock, you're like, oh my God, I should definitely put that in XRSI framework, then you can come in here and add your thoughts. And that one little thought, such as responsible innovation, could literally change the way we organize this. And I want to check some link to the mural. Okay, great. That's a great feedback. That is a flexible approach. And this is also mentioned in the resources doc. Yep. So then I would love to, if there are no other feedback on this, then I would love to move to the agenda for next week before we call it a meeting. The agenda for next week's working session is going to be focused on assessment and mapping. In order to prepare for this assessment and mapping, there is a general outline and a feedback thing. We will add a general outline week 2, where you can actually add research references. So, such as Mark had already been making tremendous recommendations with respect to risk assessment. So please add those to the week 2 general outline and recommendation. And then based off of what we need to do, we will prepare an agenda and update it to the Google Calendar. And then again, first we will have the sprint. Then we will have the EU-friendly sprint, US-friendly sprint, and then we will have the working session, where we would literally go in and synthesize that research as much as possible. We may take a, like that very document and bring it back to Mural, or how we do this, I'm still yet to get together with the team and figure out. It may or may not be Mural, but if you have any suggestions how should we do this? Please share with me, because we have 5 minutes. If anybody wants to, make a suggestion as to what would be the best approach to conduct a risk assessment working group. Sorry, the assessment and mapping is what we're talking about next week.
Kavi, I'm just kind of curious, because the way this is structured, this is really going about it by, like brainstorming and coming up with topics. We're all a little bit disconnected from each other, because we're writing things down, but there's no real synthesis of it, so that's one of the things that, I noticed. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that, in my work on ISO committees, typically what happens is there's a proposal that's actually developed and documented. And so presumably that's what the Google document is. There's a very structured approach, and, this has to be done because it's an international committee and there's many different people and countries represented. And, clause by clause, individuals write comments on the proposal itself. And then there's a convener that comes together at the meetings that discusses each of the comments and makes a decision. And typically, there is the chair of the committee will go through and will basically kind of take a first stab at responses to all of the comments, and then areas that are that people get an opportunity to actually have a dialogue with the rest of the committee as well as the chair on positions taken on each of those comments. So that's kind of the general approach that's followed in ISO standards development. So I just kind of offer that as information and something that at this early stage, since we're doing brainstorming, maybe it's not so much, but I think as it gets more developed and more refined, it's kind of a time-proven approach. It's the same approach that we also followed. I used to be the secretary to one of the IEC committees, and that's the exact approach that we followed there too. So I just offer that for your consideration.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a very valuable feedback, and we will absolutely follow that up. One question I have for you, Mark. So just thinking about assessment and mapping, what would you consider, like, what kind of an, when you say clause by clause, would you
Right.
consider these as like the clauses, or do we need to get like more granular? So let's say people comment on ASAM offline and prepare that GDoc corresponding to week 1, and then we go over it one by one to give people, sort of a opportunity to talk about why that particular research or idea they are bringing in. Is that something, or could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. So like the standard, if we take a given standard like ISO 14971 has a number of requirements that, as I've thought about this, there's no, I guess more or less, the whole privacy framework, the version 1.1, there is a process, but it's not, to me, a clear kind of close-ended process where, we assess something and then we follow up on it. Because what I'm kind of missing is a whole feedback loop on this, because, this is almost done under the assumption that, and forgive me, I'm rambling here a little bit, but the whole, there needs to be a feedback loop because things will evolve. And as it does so, we have to learn from our experience in the field, and from that, adjust. And so that's one of the things that I see in this assessment and mapping. That's all well and good, but there should be an overarching process that shows how all of these things feed into each other, and then how we learn and develop, because that's like the whole concept behind risk management systems and quality management systems, is that they are self-healing, so that you can be wrong, but there's a feedback loop so that you can identify the fact that you were wrong and that you can go back and correct yourself. So that's one thing that in my review of this, maybe it's there, but it's not clear to me. And assessment and mapping is just like one aspect of it, so it's kind of like a, and there's some things that precede that, because one of the things, and I think we've already talked about this, is that establishment of a risk acceptability criteria. So what are your criteria? So when you're assessing it, what are you assessing it against, and how do you know? Because as I thought about this, there's different types of devices, and there may be the risk acceptability criteria appropriate for one device may not be appropriate for another device. And this is very common. I saw this in my work in risk management, working with clients, where you would have like a large organization, without naming any names, that would have one set of risk acceptability criteria for an MRI machine, and they would use the same risk acceptability criteria for tongue depressors, which is obviously, makes no sense at all, because the risk associated with a tongue depressor is not the same, as an MRI machine, and what could potentially happen to you there. So that's, I anticipate that this is going to be very common, that the various extended reality types of devices, the risk, particularly the safety risk, because that's more what I'm familiar with, can be, entirely different, as you go from device to device. But there needs to be kind of an overarching framework, and then you break out each of the elements, from the framework, and they can be very context dependent depending on the device.
And Will, that's okay. You can go ahead, and we are going to conclude this meeting. Mark, thank you for that particular input. What I will do is, if you have time, I would love to schedule a one-on-one session with you, and then try to understand and incorporate all that you have mentioned here as to how we can build it into our upcoming working sessions.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Excellent. Any other feedback or comments before we call this a meeting? And I just want to thank everyone. If there are no other comments, but please feel free. One more minute. Any comments? Any suggestions? And if not, let's, thank you, everyone. And we will meet again next week, Thursday for 30 minutes. And then Friday for a working session. In the meantime, I will reach out to all those who have made a specific suggestions, and I will make sure that we are incorporating it and evolving this process, as well as documenting the process, so that next time we iterate on this, and as we grow, we are building it better and more comprehensive, and taking in all those consideration into the taking all of that into consideration. So thank you all. And have a wonderful weekend. Really, really appreciate all your feedback, input, and participation.
You too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
I